we're just talking about if we're gonna saturate the cloth in place or if we're gonna use the saturation table.
Last week on Round Sailing, we cleaned the barn and started laminating the first 2 floor beams out of 10.
So I'm preparing the cutting file for the first bulkhead between the actual chain locker and the storage area behind that. And this file is straight from the 3D drawing, so it's not something that I have scanned or anything. So I'm not so sure how well of a fit this will be, since we have added fiberglass on the inside of the hull, which is not taken into account on the 3D drawings. But the thickness of that is just a few millimeters, so I don't think it matters. And from the measurements I've been taking, it looks like we have a pretty good fit. But we just have to see once I have made the cut. So now I'm just changing the parameters for the CNC router. If it should cut on the outside or in the inside, and how deep it should cut, and also which diameter on the router bit we'll use. I've decided to cut off the bottom section of this bulkhead because we'll have a floor inside of the chain locker which will sit on top of the stem. So I think this will be a better solution, because if there's in the future will be a leak or something from the chain locker, we can see that in the storage area behind it. My first plan was to fill those voids with foam epoxy, but I think this is better, because if we have a leak, this way we can see it and it won't be hidden in the foam epoxy beneath it. So here you have what will hopefully be the end result, and it will be very interesting to see how well of a fit this will be inside the hull. There's a slight problem getting the tape to stick to the pet foam, because the surface is pretty rough and porous. Because the problem is that once I have this sheet scanned with the router, these dots here can't move, because then the router won't recognize the work area any longer, and also the accuracy will be off. So I need to be sure that the tape stays in place when I'm cutting. So I'm trying some normal masking tape, and it seems to stick pretty well. So I'm just taping down the edges. All right, let's see if this is enough to get an accurate scan. Yeah, this looks perfect, but now I just have to see how well it fits in the hull. That will be interesting. It is a really good fit. Obviously, there is a slight difference between the front face and the aft face of this, since the hull is changing its shape and the cutting file is just a 2D file. So it's the front face that is closest to the hull. So that's why you see a little bit of a gap on the sides here. But on the front side, it's against the hull. But that's okay, since it's going to be tabbed into the hull with fiberglass all along the edges here. So this is the actual chain locker. This is where the chain is coming down from the windlass. So we'll store the chain down here. And this area here is a dry storage for spinnaker, lines and fenders. We'll have a ladder down here on this bulkhead that will sit here. And this bulkhead will be a watertight bulkhead. So the hatch will sit roughly around here and the windlass somewhere around here up on deck. It is a pretty roomy chain locker, but it's nice to have this big drop for the chain. So you won't have any problems with the build-up of the chain when it's getting closer to the windlass. That could be a problem sometimes. But here, that won't be a problem because the drop is so big. So I like that. So the next step now will be to get some glass on this to make it a sandwich panel, so it will be rigid. My initial plan was to cut these after we had added the fiberglass, but there will be a little bit more waste doing that. So I'm thinking we'll try this first and see how that works out, and maybe we change later on. We'll just have to see. But I'm really happy with the result, and it feels so cool to have the first wall or bulkhead in the boat, even if it's a small one. And I don't know if I said this before, but the plan is to start in the bow and work our way aft. So obviously we need to finish a lot up here before we put in the next bulkhead. Otherwise we have to climb over that to be able to work in here. So we'll make sure to have everything painted and the floor and everything in place inside of the chain locker before we add the next bulkhead, just to make it easier. But this was just a slight detour in the meantime while we're waiting for the vacuum bagging material and everything, so we can continue with the keel grid. And hopefully I can start with that tomorrow or the day after that. So I think everything is prepared now for tomorrow. The plan is to get 3 floors laminated in one go. That's as many as I can do with the vacuum hoses that we have and the connectors and everything. And I think this will be okay. I have prepared the hoses so we can connect them to 3 different floors and open at each station with these valves as I move aft with the lamination. And the pump, the vacuum pump that we have is a pretty strong one, so the surface area won't be a problem. But of course we need to keep the leaks under control and really get that butyl tape pressed down with the vacuum bag so we keep the leaks under control. So all the vacuum bagging material is now cut and ready, and I have all the fiberglass and everything. So once we have this done, it's time to prepare the last floors. I think I'm going to prime them as well and put some peel ply on top to get them prepared for the day after tomorrow, so we can start laminating the rest of them.
Even though the beams are pretty small dimension-wise, it takes quite some time with each one, since the fiberglass cloth is so thick and there are many layers of the vacuum material that goes on.
So the first floor is under the vacuum bag now. And progress has been pretty slow actually. It's pretty cold, and that makes, the hull is cold. So as soon as you get the epoxy down onto the glass, it thickens up pretty quickly. So it takes some time to get the glass fully saturated. And it's already 2:30 in the afternoon, so then I have 2 more to go, so it will probably be a pretty long day today. But I'm still pretty confident that I can get 2 more done today, and hopefully I can get a bit earlier start tomorrow. It's always like that when you think you have thought about everything the day before and you want to start directly the day after, there is always something that you have forgot. And in this case it was few pieces of peel ply that I hadn't cut, and a few other things. So I dragged out a little bit on time before I could actually start laminating. All right. Wow, that was pretty hard work getting those last 2 in place. I don't know how cold it is, but the last one definitely took a lot longer than the first one because of the cold. It's 7:45 now. So what's that? Took me almost 6 hours to do two floors. So that's it for tonight. Yeah, I can really feel yesterday's work today. I'm pretty sore, especially in my legs after all that crawling around yesterday. But I'm really pleased with the result. I haven't taken off the peel ply just yet because it's not fully 100% cured yet. So I'll leave that on for a bit more time. Yesterday we got this infrared heater, and I left it on for a few hours last night, and it really helps a lot to just heat up a small area a lot faster than when you're trying to heat up all the area in the barn. So I'll use this for the rest of the floors. It's a really good way to heat up, you know, a small section of space that you want to have warm, and that might speed things up a little bit. Because the problem I had yesterday with these was that once the epoxy got onto the hull, it cooled down pretty quickly because the hull is cold, and then the epoxy gets pretty thick, and it takes a longer time to get the fiberglass fully saturated. And by using this, we can preheat the area that we're going to laminate, so the epoxy won't cool down as much once it's applied on top of the fiberglass. So the plan for today is to continue laminating the floors, number 5, 7, and maybe number 9, but that will be for next week's episode. So thanks a lot for watching, and as always, a massive thank you to all of our patrons and everybody else who contributes to our production. Thanks a lot. See you next week. Bye-bye.